right, welcome to ABUS 478 Strategic Management. As part of Palmetto College, ABUS 478 is Strategic Management, as I said, and that's called the capstone course. That's what we give at the end. And the purpose of it is supposed to bring everything together. I mean, you've been in school now for 4 years. We've thrown everything at you. From Shakespeare to chemistry, and then the last couple of years we've thrown all this business stuff at you. And this is kind of the last course you're going to take, and supposedly we're going to bring everything together for you. We're going to let you know how it all kind of ties in together. So that's going to be the focus of this course. We're going to use the knowledge that you have. You've had marketing, you've had accounting, you've had finance, management, you've had theory, you've had all those courses. Hopefully we're going to say, now here's how you'd use that. Here's how you're going to tie all that stuff in an applied way. Because, you know, when you get out there, they're not going to give you a test. They're going to say, fix this. And so one way to look at fixing it is that we have created for you a toolbox. Over your whole college career, we've given you a toolbox, and hopefully we've put things in it that you will use. So here's my analogy. I don't know if any of you have ever worked construction, but back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, if you were working construction, you had a toolbox. And when you rode down the road and there was a new construction site going on, you didn't send in an application or go to HR. You pulled off to the side of the road. You went and said, where's the supervisor of the job? They told you. You told him, I'm a carpenter. I'm looking for work. And if you were lucky, he'd say, well, we need a carpenter. Before he hired you, the first thing he would say is, go get your toolbox. Well, you had to have one. If you didn't have one, interview's over. You go get your toolbox out of your old truck and you open it, and he would say, the supervisor would say, open your toolbox. He would look in your toolbox, and he could tell by the type of tools you had in there and how much use they had whether you were worth a hoot or whether he should hire you or say, look, we're not hiring anybody. So you have to have a toolbox full of tools, and number two, you have to know how to use the tools. So what we've done over this last college career of yours is we have put things in your toolbox, in particular business things in your toolbox. And the key is you need to know what's in your toolbox, and you need to know when to pull out a certain tool. So back to my carpentry analogy, you've been the second day of work and the boss man walks up and says, I need you to cut me two 2x4s 3 feet long, and walks away. Simple task. You open your toolbox. It's up to you to know which tool to pull out. You wouldn't pull out a screwdriver. That's not going to help you meet your objective of 2x4s 3 feet long. Wouldn't pull out a pair of pliers. First thing I'd pull out is a tape measure, a pencil, and a square. I'd pull out a tape measure and I'd measure 3 feet. I'd put my little mark. I put my square down, draw me a straight line. Then I'd go back to the toolbox and I'd pull me out a saw. I wouldn't pull out a pair of pliers, I'd pull out a saw. I'd cut that bad boy twice, and boom, you're done. This is what it's all about. So when you get in the heat of battle and your manager comes into you and says, our sales are dropping, what's the problem? And walks out of the room, you need to open your toolbox, look in it, and pull out the appropriate tool. I don't think you'd pull out financial ratios if you're trying to figure out why sales aren't good. Maybe you pull out your marketing stuff, everything you learned about marketing. I need to find out what the last 10 years sales were. I need to look at the economy because I understand that about marketing. Are we in a recession? Is that why sales are down? We need to look at our competition. Everything you've learned about marketing, everything you've learned about sales, there's a tool in that toolbox for you. And if he walked in and said, look, we need to borrow $10 million, we need $10 million for this new project, tell me the cheapest and best way to get that money, and walks out, you open up your toolbox and you pull out your financial stuff. Your finance tool will tell you what money is available, how much it's going to cost. You can borrow the money, which is going to cost you a ton. You can issue stock, which is going to cost you a bunch of ton up front. You can issue corporate bonds. There's a million ways you can go get money. He just wants you to tell him the best, quickest, and least expensive way to go get the money. That's what your toolbox is for. So the one key is having your toolbox full of tools. The second key is knowing which tool to pull out given the problem that you've got or given the objective that you're trying to meet. So that's kind of what we've done. We've filled your toolbox up. And this course is going to be, here's a problem. Open your toolbox. What would you pull out? We're going to have case analysis. We're going to have all kinds of things where it's not like, what did it say on page 87? It's going to say, here's a real company. Here's a problem they had. What would you do? How would you fix this? So that should be your framework here. How do we fix this? Because that's what they're going to ask you to do next year when you're working. So let's get ready for that. Let's practice for that. All right. Strategic management. What in the world is that? Well, here's a country definition. This is off the books definition. What is strategic management? Strategic management is simply thinking about the future. Thinking about the future. And you're going, that's just stupid. Well, here's the deal. If you don't think about the future, it doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist, you're not going to do anything to plan for it, to get ready for it, or to meet some objective that you might have in 3 years. See, if I ask you, what are you going to do in 3 years? In 2016, where are you going to be living? Are you going to be married? What kind of car are you going to be driving? How much money are you going to be making? All those issues you need to think about, because if you don't, you're going to wake up in 2016 and you're going to be somewhere. Now, would you rather be somewhere that you kind of planned and made a strategy to get to, or would you rather wake up and go, God, how did I wind up here? And unfortunately, that happens to personally, that happens in businesses. So you got to think about the future. So here's a true story. I've always wanted a beach house. I want to be on the water, looking at the ocean. I know 3 rows back. I want to sit on my porch and look at the ocean. Ain't gonna happen. I'm 60 years old. Ain't gonna happen. My roommate in college, when we were in college, he said, I want a beach house. And I went, I do too. But he was smart enough. He put a plan together. He really, really wanted a beach house. So when we were out of college 2 or 3 years, he found about 4 or 5 guys that went down to Isle of Palms and each put in about $50,000 and bought a little tear down almost beach house on like 4th row. But they were at the beach. They all fixed it up over time, et cetera, and appreciated. They sold it. 3 of them then took their money, or 3 of those guys went and bought a bigger, nicer house, etc. He's done that 3 or 4 times. He now owns his own house at the beach on the ocean. Now, yeah, it took him 30 years, but right today, he's got it. And the reason he's got it 30 years down the road is because 30 years ago, he said, I'm going to put a strategic plan in action that is going to help me do things to make that beach house reality. And he did that, and he's got a beach house. So I wasn't that smart. I'm telling you, if you want to do something, you have to figure it out and then work toward it. You have to. It's not just going to happen. Nobody's going to walk up to me and go, here's your beach house. He was smart enough to know that. I always thought somebody's going to give me a beach house, and that's not going to happen. So thinking about the future. Now, there's a fancy-pantsy definition of strategic management, and it goes something like this. It's the process of managing the pursuit of the organization's mission, while at the same time managing the internal functions of the organization. The internal functions of the organization. So I've got to be true to my basic belief, my missions, but at the same time, I've got to take care of my internal functions, accounting, management, marketing, all those things. ... While at the same time, I need to coordinate the organization's relationship with the external environment. I've got to take care of internal. Are we doing a good job? Are we efficient? Are we really doing it well? And then I've got to make sure that it coordinates with the external environment. So let me give you an example of that, because those are big, fancy words, and those definitions drove me crazy too. Philip Morris, cigarette maker. They make the best cigarette in the world, supposedly, to people that smoke. They make more money than you can count, even today. Well, here's the deal. Philip Morris makes a product that is really not good for you, not healthy for you at all. And that's not an opinion. As far back as the 50s, doctors knew, they had done research, that this stuff is causing all kind of problems. In fact, it's killing people. It is one of the most unhealthy things you can put in your body. Didn't hear anything about it. In the late 50s, didn't hear anything about it. Everybody was smoking. Smoking was everywhere. It was on TV, it was in the movies. My parents smoked. My father smoked 3 packs a day. Everybody smoked. However, as information came in and people started going, God, these death rates are going up and these disease rates are going up, they finally, about 1963-64, there was enough pressure on Congress. They passed a law that says you can't advertise cigarettes on TV and you can't advertise them in print ad. Up until that time, I can remember when in 1962, every other ad was a cigarette commercial. Magazines, every other page was the Marlboro Man, you know, smoking his cigarette and talking about how cool he was. All of a sudden, 1964, the government comes in and says you can't advertise. Can you imagine a company, a government telling you you can't advertise your product? Well, what am I supposed to do now? That was the first shot across the bow. And so the cigarette companies finally woke up and said, we need to look at this strategically. Where do we want to be? And how is this going to help us or deter us from getting where we want to be? So then to make it worse, the government about a year or two later said, not only are we not going to let you advertise, we're going to make you put a label on your product that says this will kill you, don't do it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Apple had to put a disclaimer on their computer that said, this thing will kill you, don't use it? So the point is they did that, and they were saying, this is surely going to decrease smoking and decrease health. Well, it didn't. No advertisement, we don't care. Going to kill me, I don't care. So the government finally said, what can we do? Well, people behave through their pocketbooks. We'll put a $2 tax on each carton of cigarettes. A pack of cigarettes, when I was growing up, was 30 cents. I bought them from my parents all the time. A carton was like $4.50. All of a sudden, a pack of cigarettes costs $2.50. A lot of times, that's the sale price now, by the way. $2.50. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? Cartons are going for 45 and 50 bucks. That'll deter people from smoking. Well, guess what? It did not. People still smoking. So, but the demand did drop in the United States, and the cigarette companies are going, all right, what can we do now? Because I'm thinking about the future. We make the best cigarette in the world, no doubt about it, but my external environment says we don't want you here. That external environment isn't doing everything. They're costing me money. They're making me advertise and tell people I'm terrible. We've got to do something. Well, this is what they did long term. They moved. They picked their football up and they went to another game. They went to Europe. I've been to a Philip Morris factory in the Czech Republic. It was an old monastery. You walk in and there's these gorgeous, stuff on the wall, and it's just beautiful. And that lasts for about 100 feet. And then there's a big door, and you go through that door, and it's a factory. It's as clean, looks like a hospital. People wearing white coats, masks, and they're making hundreds of thousands of cigarettes a day, just rolling them out. And not only are they making them there, they're selling them there. For some reason, the East Coast of the United States makes the best tobacco in the world, so they still grow it in Virginia and they grow it in North Carolina. The U.S. government subsidizes that, by the way. They grow it there. They put it in these big old hermetically sealed fancy boxes. They put it on a ship, and in Czech Republic, they make it. So literally, the strategy of cigarette companies was, since we can't coordinate this internal and external environment, we'll go find an external environment that will support this internal function. So they go and do all those great things over in the Czech Republic. They manufacture it, they market it, they transport it, all those business functions, they're just doing it in another place, changed environments. Now, here's another thing about that. Who would believe this? A couple years ago, France said, we think smoking is kind of bad. The French said that. When the French say it's bad, you got a problem. So Because the reason they're saying that is because hospital rates are going up, death rates are going up. It's costing the French government billions in healthcare. And so my thing is, in about 10 years, Europe's going to have the same impositions on cigarette smoking as we have here, and it's going to move somewhere else, maybe Asia, South America, who knows. It's going to go till it runs out of markets. That's their strategy. They make no bones about it. So the fancy definition of strategic management is you have to coordinate the internal functions of the organization, production, management, marketing, finance, all that stuff. Do that real well, but also have a real good relationship with the external environment. So they love you and they support you. And we're going to talk about that. All right. We're still talking big picture. That's this first chapter is just big picture stuff. There are 3 tests your strategy has to meet. In other words, you hear that word test. The word test means questions. So you hear, there's 4 tests here. They say that in the legal. It's got to meet 4 tests. Basically, you got to ask 4 questions. You got to get a good answer to each one of these 4 questions. Well, in this case, 3. We've got 3 tests that determine whether this is a good strategy or not. First test, it's called, excuse me a minute, hold on. God, why is he calling me? I told him not. Anyway, excuse me, I got to take this call. Jay-Z, what's up? No, I heard your new thing. It's okay. It's okay. Well, dude, you've lost that edge. You're not doing what you used to do. You sound like Justin Bieber. No, I didn't mean to make you mad, but you do. Go listen to it. You know, I remember Jay-Z in the old day. It was real. It was from the street. Now it's like, you know, la, la, la. I told you what. Look, I produced your last album. I'm busy. I'm working. Y'all excuse me. I can't do it. Okay. All right, do this. Call me tonight. I'm busy right now, dude. You know that. Call me tonight. I'm going out to dinner. Call me about 8. And I'll do what I can't promise anything, but I'll do what I can. All right, how's my girl? Yeah, I saw a picture of her. She's looking fine. She is. Treat her right. All right, tell me I was good. I said hello. Bye. Hug the babies. Bye. Bye. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. The fit test. The first one. First test is the fit test. It's called the fit test. This is what you need to do. Ask this question. How well does the strategy fit the company's situation right now? But what does that mean? Well, this is what that means. We've had 3 really bad years. Oh yeah, the economy, I can blame it on a lot of things. But really bad years. We've had a dip into our cash reserves. Things have not been going well. Well, guess what? I can't come up with a strategy this year that's going to get me to 20% increase in sales or leading the industry. Right now, I just want to get my head above water. So increased sales and doing all this new product line, that does not fit my current situation. You know, if you were last in the NFL last year, maybe your goal ought to be, we want to be 500 this year. To have a goal, an objective that we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, that does not fit at all. It's not realistic. So use realistic for that word instead of fit if you want to. So the fit test. Number 2, the competitive advantage test. Is this strategy helping my company achieve a sustainable competitive advantage? We're going to talk about that sustainable competitive advantage a lot during this course. It's a huge debate. It's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Can you maintain a sustainable competitive advantage? That means, can you just be number 1 forever? You know, and so there's all kind of debates. And people say, well, yeah, and other people say, well, you can't, because what if another company develops some technology? And the answer is, well, why don't you develop that technology? The point is, to maintain any kind of competitive advantage, whether it's sustainable or not, as tough as it can be. So you just need to realize, is my strategy going to create a competitive advantage? And then if I want to get real fancy pants, is it going to create a competitive, sustainable advantage? All right, the third one, the performance test. Is the strategy that I'm planning, will it result in better company performance? I hate to be crude and rude, is this going to make us money? Is this going to improve stockholder value? Is this going to help my company grow? The performance test. Will this get me where I want to go? And you have to answer that question. Now, it's kind of like a magic crystal ball. I don't really know, but if I don't really think so, I'd be crazy. The answer to that question is no. In other words, you have to be convinced that the strategy I'm creating now will increase or lead to performance that will be better than where I am now, or lead me to help me meet my goals and objectives. Absolutely. All right. Are there any questions, concerns? Talk to me. Okay, that's it. No more elephants. No more. You can't bring an animal to class. No, stop that. Stop. Whose elephant was that? That's crazy, dude. You don't bring an elephant to class? What in the world? We can't have this. Y'all know better than that. I'm talking to college. An elephant. Where did it? Anyway. All right. Let's talk about the strategic model. The strategic model. Not only is this a good model for business, it's a good model for your life. It's basically going to be almost a syllabus of this course, even though there's one in your Blackboard package. This is basically how we're going to approach it through this model. It just makes sense. So the first stage of this strategic model is formulate mission and goals. Mission and goals. Mission's kind of like your religion. What do you believe in? What is your reason for being here? And you can't say to make money. That is just not it. That underlies every mission statement. That's a given. Okay, we accept that. So it can't be to make money. And mission statements are wonderful things, and we're going to talk about them in a greater detail in Chapter 2. But you got to have a mission statement and you got to have goals before you can ever start your journey. I'm sorry. Number 2, determine objectives. We're going to talk about objectives because they're very, very serious things that most people don't pay attention to. And that's why a lot of times objectives are not met. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about objectives in Chapter 2. But right now, determine objectives. Let me know, give me an idea of where you want me to go. Number 2, 3, formulate strategy. All these boxes are kind of the same size. Formulate strategy should be that big. This is where 80% of the work is going to go in. Formulate strategy. In determining objectives, I kind of know where I want to go. Formulating strategy, I've got to create a detailed roadmap for my employees, for my stockholders, for my constituents that let me know here's where we want to go and here's the exact steps that we want to get there. That's management. Don't you ever tell somebody you want them to do something and not tell them how to do it. If you do, just quit. Don't be a manager. You might be a good something else, but you're not going to be a good manager. That's your job, to teach them this is what we want to do, and now I need to teach you this is how we're going to get it done. I'm serious about that. The 4th, implement strategy. This is easy. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. It's basically do what you said you were going to do. But the key to implementing strategy is being able to determine if in fact you are doing what you said you were going to do, which leads us to the last one, evaluate and control. Now you'll see this little feedback loop that comes down all the way back up into formulate mission and goals. And then it goes up into every box. Here's the deal. You don't wait to the end of the process to evaluate and control. This is a two-dimensional space I'm working in, so I had to put it linearly. But that feedback loops means that at the very beginning, at that first meeting over here, and formulate mission and goals, that first meeting, we're evaluating and controlling. Here's an example. If somebody, you're in there and when you sit down, what's our mission and goals? And so you just go over what the mission is right now. Well, we're 100 years old. We've always been known for our quality. We are just, people use us in advertising. We're as good as that company. We are just set the standard for quality. And you've got some hotshot engineer who says, well, there's this new technology that'll let us increase production by 30% at a very minimal cost. I know I'm making this up. 30% very minimal cost. And we all go, oh, we know our spreadsheets, we know Excels, and in fact, we got it on our desk, and we're putting them in, going, look at all that money we'll make. Somebody needs this morning to say, wait a minute, dudes. Our mission, our religion has been quality. And we've all been to school, and we all know that the relationship between quality and quantity is as if you increase quality, quantity is going to go down, I guarantee it. And the greater the quantity goes up, the greater the quality goes down. So yeah, we'll sell a bunch in the very beginning, and then all of a sudden people will be going, they're not as good as they used to be. I remember you never had a problem. Now every time you turn around, there's something wrong. You don't want to put up with that. I'm not saying don't grow. I'm saying to give up your mission of quality for growth is crazy. And so that's where that would kick in right there, that evaluation and control. Somehow, that's not who we are. That is not who we are. So that's the evaluation and control. It's at the end of the line, but that doesn't mean we only use it at the end. It's through the entire. It's ingrained in the entire process. All right, strategy's got to answer 3 key questions, and y'all know this. Y'all have heard this 1,000 times. Here's the deal. Here are the key questions. Number 1, where are we right now? Number 2, where do we want to go? And number 3, how do we get there? All right, let me give you a little guess. I mean, I'm in Aiken, South Carolina. I'm hoping most of y'all know this. So my objective is to get to Columbia, South Carolina. Make me a strategic plan to get to Columbia, South Carolina. Go ahead. What do you got? What do you need? I bet you're saying I need a car. Got to have good tires, oiled up. Got to have gas. All right, well, how do you get to Columbia? Well, you go to I-20, which is right there by Aiken. You take a right, go east. And you go about 50 miles, and then you'll see a sign that says Columbia next 5 interchanges, and that's all you need to see. That's your objective. So you see a sign that says Columbia next couple interchanges. And I go, great plan. Any of y'all got a problem with that plan? Talk amongst yourselves. I would bet, no, that's what I do. Get a car, put gas in it, make sure the tires are good, go to I-20, take a right, go about 50 miles, boom, there it is. Well, I followed your strategy to a T, to a perfect T. I wound up in Arlington, Texas. And you're going, that's impossible. No, it's not. Because the one question me and you didn't answer was the first one I just said answer, which was what? Where are we now? You weren't in Aiken, South Carolina. I-20 runs right through Texas. I've been on it. We were 50 miles west of Arlington, Texas. If I'd have told you were in Texas, you'd have said, well, we need about $500 in our pocket because it's going to take that much gas to get to Columbia, South Carolina. Y'all didn't ask that question. I don't ask those kind of questions. I'm not being a hypocrite. I don't do that either. I have to always remind me, where are we now? I'll be sitting in meetings in the university and I go, we need to do this. And I go, we need to do that. And I go, I don't know where we are right now. I don't know how many students are in this program. I don't know. No. You got to go find all that. And that's boring. That just means I can't even start because you think your job is to get busy doing something. And it is, but you can't do something until you get the right information. So 3 questions you got to answer. Where are we right now? That is probably the most crucial. That is the most crucial. And a lot of plans absolutely fail because nobody asked that question. All right. There are 3 levels of corporate strategy. I'm going to give you a bunch of lists in this course. That's a great way to learn something. Every list I give you is going to start out real broad, get a little more narrow, and then real focused at the end. It's just a good way to think of things. So there are 3 levels of corporate strategy. All of these are equally important. Just because one is number 3 and one was number 1 does not mean that one is important. They're all, without any one of these, you will fail. First one, corporate level strategy. This is where people sit around. Today at General Motors, they sat around and they were thinking about what kind of trend do we want to put on our stock price? Or what kind of trend do we want to see in our stock price? They ain't talking about cars. Somebody up there is saying, well, in 15 years, what business do we want to be in? They might decide to be in the real estate business. If they got all that money, all those assets, they could put that anywhere they want to. They do not have to make cars with that money. I guarantee you somebody there is making that statement. So they're looking at big picture items. This is kind of a true story. Happened at IBM. I believe it was IBM. Doesn't matter. No. I'm lying. Happened at McDonald's. This is 10 years ago. And this is in their minutes. So this wasn't hearsay. And they were talking about what could we do to make more money. And there was a guy on their board who said, and he read the Wall Street, he kind of kept up. He said, I see that euro dollars are paying a whole bunch of money, a great return buying euro dollars and selling them. He said, and it's more money than we're making. I think McDonald's at the time had like I don't know, I'm making this up again, like an 18% return, and this could give them a much better return. And so he made a proposal that McDonald's sell, take all that money and buy euro dollars, because it would give more return to their investor. Of course, he was voted down in about 10 seconds. Euro dollars change all the time. There's no stability there. It was a dumb decision. By the time they sold the assets, euro dollars. So y'all know that. It's crazy. But the point is, that's why he was thinking. So he gets an F for being dumb as dirt. He gets an A+ for going, let me just get out of this box. Because my job as a director is make the greatest return to my stock. No, my job as a board director is to provide the greatest return to my investors. And right now, I think that would do it. Well, it might have done it in a second, but it didn't do it in any kind of reality. So that's just an example of how crazy it can get. Corporate, you're out of the box. Let me just think of stuff. General Motors, I might not be in the car business 15 years from now. I don't know. Number 2, business strategy. This is more of a coordinating effort. So you got corporate, now we got strategic. General Motors' business strategy is on the divisional level. And actually, you could call it the product level, but their divisions and products are basically the same. You know that. You have Chevrolet, in the old days, you had Chevrolet plants. That's all they did. You had a you had a vice president over Chevrolet. You had a Pontiac plant and a Pontiac guy. Buick, Oldsmobile, Cadillac. You had GMC trucks over here and Corvette over there. But that was the way they organized their business. And that was done at the business level. And by the way, that can change depending on what you want. They thought that was the best way to coordinate. Well, they've kind of changed that, because in your lifetime, we don't have Pontiac anymore. They had a meeting a couple years ago, and they were looking at numbers, and they went, what can we do to provide better return to our investor? And they said, we need to get rid of some of these levels. Let's get rid of Pontiac. How can you get rid of Pontiac? It's a part of Americana. No, get rid of it. And they did. But before they got rid of Pontiac, they got rid of Oldsmobile. And the problem was, Pontiacs were too close to Buick. People would rather buy a Buick than a Pontiac. Oldsmobile was too close to Cadillac. If I'm going to go all the money to an Oldsmobile, which was a very expensive old man car, I might as well buy a Cadillac. They adjusted to that. Strategically, they changed their business strategy. And then the last one is functional strategy. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you're making a car. The people in charge of functional strategy, they're not talking about stock prices. They're worrying, do I have enough employees? Did somebody pay the electric company that $8 million bill we had this month? Do I have enough raw materials? Do I have a labor force that's trained well enough to put all these cars together? That's what you worry about at the functional level. But that doesn't mean it's not any more difficult than that corporate, pie in the sky kind of thinking. You need every one of these levels of strategy to get the job done to meet your objectives. So just remember that. All right, first chapter talked about a lot of stuff, but it was big picture stuff. We looked at definition of strategic management. We looked at the strategic management model. We looked at the things that we need to look for, like fit. Does it fit? Does it fit the time period? Or does it project we're going to make money? We looked at all kind of things. We looked at that strategic model. Then we looked at levels of strategy at this level. This is big picture stuff. I haven't really given you any information on how to go do something tomorrow in the workplace. But right now, you've got to have that philosophical view that we talked about today. You have to have that big picture. The first day of work, you need to imagine yourself as the president of the company. You're not going to be the president of the company, not the first day, but you need to say, if I was president of this company, what would I do? Start training yourself to think like that instead of reacting every time your boss knocks on your door and goes, do this. You can do that. You'll stay right where you are. You'll never move up. They don't want somebody. They can hire worker bees all day long. They're looking for somebody who can take this information and go, you know, I had a great idea. This is what we can do here, and it really can help us meet our objectives. So peace is going to be too much fun. First thing out, y'all read the book. You got to read the book. You know that. I'm not going to be able to. These lectures are just a tip of the iceberg of what's in these chapters. So see you. Bye.